Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. This week, dinos fight Civil War soldiers at a theme park throwback, Dinosaur Kingdom II in Natural Bridge, Virginia.
All right, head up. All right. Behave yourself.
If you're hungry for a pepperoni roll in West Virginia, you can find one at just about any gas station. So, how did they get so popular? We'll hear one theory.
Kanawha County Schools is where we learned about pepperoni rolls, essentially. You started seeing them pop up in gas stations after that.
And the backstory of a bus that sits at the confluence of the New and Gauley rivers. And the man who put it there.
1954 when he put it up here. Figure over 50 years old, 50 years on that rock. It's older than me,
You'll hear these stories and more this week inside Appalachia. Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. Every summer, Americans hit the road for vacation. In Appalachia, families pile into cars and drive from the hills and mountains to, the other hills and mountains, like the Smokies, or to the ocean in places like Myrtle Beach or the Outer Banks. The tradition of summer road tripping dates back for as long as there have been automobiles. On these long drives, people needed breaks, so they'd stop at fruit stands, or fireworks stores, or bizarre roadside attractions. A lot of these weird, old-style attractions have disappeared, but some have managed to hang on. In 2020, I visited artist Mark Klein's Dinosaur Kingdom II in Natural Bridge, Virginia.
Where are you folks from?
We are from Chatham, Virginia.
Chatham, Virginia. Oh, yeah.
Virginia.
Dinosaurs love people from Chatham, Virginia. Yeah, they have that special southern taste to it.
It's Friday afternoon, an hour and a half before closing, and Mark Klein greets a family fresh out of their car.
I'm the creator of the park, so, maybe I shouldn't have told you that. I should have waited to see if you liked it or not.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
All right, have fun.
Thank you.
Seriously, try not to get eaten.
Mark's dressed in jeans, a white t-shirt, and white fedora. I've met him in the parking lot of Dinosaur Kingdom II, a roadside attraction across the street from the Natural Bridge Zoo on U.S. Route 11.
If you notice when you come into the parking lot, I've designed this so that your adventure begins here. And what you're seeing is the train depot and the Yankee up there fighting the dinosaur on the train car.
Dinosaur Kingdom evolved out of one of Mark's previous attractions, the Haunted Monster Museum. He populated a 1-acre space with dinosaurs fighting Civil War soldiers to entertain folks waiting in line for the Monster Museum.
Of course, we had a major fire in 2012. The Haunted Monster Museum burned down, but we had all these dinosaurs that survived out in the woods.
Mark eventually got a 16-acre piece of land across from the Natural Bridge Zoo, where he built Dinosaur Kingdom II. He says his interest in the Civil War dates back to a series of events, starting in 1969 with Hurricane Camille, which caused severe flooding in the Virginia mountains where Mark's family lived.
My mom gathered me and my brothers up and headed up to Gettysburg, to get us away from the danger. We went up there, and my mom took us to all the museums, all the Gettysburg museums. I saw the wax museums and the little miniature museums, and I was just totally fascinated with that.
Mark figured everyone loves dinosaurs, and he's located just south of Lexington, Virginia.
We're just down the road from where Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson lived, so we figured that 60% of the battles of the Civil War took place here in Virginia, so we sort of married up the two, fact with fantasy, and it seems to be pretty popular.
Dinosaur Kingdom II acts as a funhouse mirror for that history, squeezing it into an absurdist revisioning, where Union and Confederate soldiers interact with dinosaurs in bizarre scenes. In one, President Abraham Lincoln sits atop a building as a flying dinosaur makes off with his speech.
And you can see that the bird is actually chewing up the Gettysburg Address. Now you know why the Gettysburg Address was so short, because the pteranodon ate most of it.
Elsewhere, a steampunk Stonewall Jackson with a trench coat and telescoping arm battles a Spinosaurus. The park culminates with a big T-Rex that swoops down on an outhouse at the very end.
All right, head up. All right. Behave yourself. Yeah. And the breath in that thing. Here's the thing. By design, you want to have people as they exit. They saw this T-Rex coming at them in the Johnny house, so about the time they're laughing, talking about it, and they're coming through right here, through this gate. As they exit, the people that are standing on that porch getting ready to buy their tickets are seeing people laughing and enjoying themselves. Now, if those people on the porch are sort of on the fence or deciding whether or not to buy those tickets, they see these people coming out and they just had a great time. And sometimes that pushes it over.
Klein occasionally hears from customers and critics upset about his use of Civil War imagery at Dinosaur Kingdom II. His response is as irreverent as the park itself.
If anybody can make an issue out of cartoon soldiers fighting dinosaurs with slime monsters everywhere, I said, bring it on. I want to hear this. This park is ridiculous. It's meant to be ridiculous, but isn't that what war is? War is ridiculous.
Dinosaur Kingdom II is a throwback to the old roadside attractions of the mid-20th century, when Americans explored the country in their automobiles. Businesses tried to entice them off the road and to spend a few dollars.
This is an old-time tourist attraction that have sort of become extinct in the 70s. Now there's a whole new generation of kids discovering this because this is a brand new experience for them. This is something that just doesn't exist anymore, but yet here it is.
Mark Klein's something of a throwback himself. People call him the Barnum of the Blue Ridge, and he's definitely got the gift of gab. Mark grew up in Waynesboro, Virginia, near the crest of the Blue Ridge Mountains, loving comics, cartoons, and monster movies. He pursued those interests through art and made a major leap when he learned about fiberglass sculpting through a job at Red Mill Manufacturing, which made him figurines of animals and people.
The guy showed me how to work with resin, and here I've been working with paper mache before, and I thought, well, I can make things more exterior with this. And he said, you sure can, Mark. Here's a 5-gallon bucket. Go home and play with it.
And he did. Mark started creating stuff.
To build an original piece, I'll scale it out. Then I'll use foam, I'll cut out a piece out of foam to the size I want, and then I'll essentially coat that with fiberglass. And if I like that design, I'll make a mold of it so I can make duplicates. After I make the original piece, I can just duplicate it over and over and over and over.
Mark Klein's work falls into that American tradition of building giant sculptures to lure motorists off the highway. Think of the cherubic statues and overalls at big boy restaurants, or the muffler men and Paul Bunyans that once guarded auto shops and roadside attractions of all sorts. Mark's carried on that tradition through contracts for clients around the country and his attractions in Natural Bridge, Virginia. Mark landed there in 1982. He set up Enchanted Studios as a workshop for making his fiberglass sculptures for one attraction after another. The first and second Dinosaur Kingdoms, the Haunted Monster Museum, Foamhenge. But it's not been without costs.
I went through a depression that I had to overcome, went through a divorce, a first wife that she left me because she said the romance of poverty had worn off, and I was struggling, and I kept saying, hey, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. And became very, very close to bankruptcy. Had 2 major fires. So there were a lot of things that I had to rise above, but I kept on and on and on and on.
Mark says that even when he had nowhere else to go, he could turn to his art. It let him escape to a different place for a while. Today he's making a go of it. Dinosaur Kingdom II is going strong, even during the pandemic. On the day I visited, a surge of traffic arrived in the late afternoon. Mostly 20-somethings, a couple of families, all excited to explore this weird attraction in Natural Bridge. But Mark's been doing this for 40 years. He's almost 60 now, and he's starting to think about the park's future. And that's where the Virginia Folklife program comes in.
My name is Pat Jarrett. I am a digital media coordinator for the Virginia Folklife program at Virginia Humanities.
Pat discovered Dinosaur Kingdom through his previous job at a newspaper in Stanton, Virginia, just north of Natural Bridge.
I love Dinosaur Kingdom 2. It's brilliant. It's full of whimsy and optical illusions, and it's like being inside Mark Klein's brain, which is thrilling and a little bit confusing.
He got to know Mark well enough to have conversations about the future of the park.
He said to me one time something that really stuck with me. He said, I'm worried that when I die, people are going to come into this yard and they're going to throw away all these molds because they don't know what this is or how to work it. And it's just going to be lost. And that is kind of the reason we have the apprenticeship program, is so that this knowledge can be passed down and continued.
The apprenticeship program pairs masters in a folk craft with a student so that traditions can be passed on to future generations. The program doesn't usually play a matchmaker, but in Mark's case, Pat had someone in mind.
I happened to know Brentley from the music community, and I knew that he was working on small-scale, short-run action figures. And it just clicked in my head that these guys could probably work together.
Brentley Hilliard plays in a metal band. He also makes his own short-run action figures. Mark taught Brentley how to go from small-scale to large-scale sculpture and molding. He also passed along a couple of his clients to Brentley, like a children's museum in Connecticut that wanted fairy figures. Brentley has taken the business and lessons that Mark gave him and combined them with his woodworking and action figures to make a living from his art. Here's Brentley.
I definitely learned a ton about mold making and materials that I hadn't worked with before. Like, I had never worked with epoxy sculpt, which is a modeling compound that cures to almost like cement. And I had never messed with that. And I sculpted the head for a flying monkey for a Wizard of Oz putt-putt course that he was working for.
Mark still lives and breathes sculpture and molding, especially for Dinosaur Kingdom II, where he's always planning something new. Whether that's an interactive water fight with Bigfoot, a Triceratops bullfight, or a whole new dungeon full of sculpted fiberglass creations.
So what's true and what's not here at Dinosaur Kingdom? To me, it's all true. This is hey, we're here, aren't we? We're walking through it. People say, are dinosaurs real? I say, they are to me, kid.
That story was part of our Folkways reporting project, which covers arts and culture in our region. You can find dozens more Folkways stories on our website, wvpublic.org. Coming up, great moments in pepperoni roll history. You're inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams.
Support for Inside Appalachia is provided by Concord University, educating the people of our region and beyond for more than 150 years. More information at concord.edu.
Zach Harold, Inside Appalachia's resident foodie. What brings you on the show today?
This will come as no surprise to anybody, but I have been thinking deep thoughts about another iconic West Virginia food, particularly pepperoni rolls. A lot of ink has been spilled about pepperoni rolls. Tell me, Mason, what was your first experience with it?
It's funny you ask, because I remember pretty clearly it was when I used to referee roller derby, and I'd run up and down the eastern seaboard and even to the Midwest to referee bouts all over the place. And I learned pretty quick that you can spend a lot of money on traveling, especially on food, but a good hack is to stop at the grocery stores along the way and check out what they got in their deli. And I quickly discovered that a lot of places in Western Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland would carry pepperoni rolls in the grocery store, and they were inexpensive and they kept well, which made it perfect for a traveling roller derby ref.
See, that is the original appeal of a pepperoni roll, right? It was invented in north central West Virginia by coal miners' families to have a handy lunch and an affordable lunch to take down into the mines with them. So what I'm interested in, though, is by this point, obviously, you're running all over and finding pepperoni rolls. They've become ubiquitous, not just in West Virginia, but in surrounding states too. But I'm trying to figure out how they got from their origins in north central West Virginia to becoming this regional favorite. And I think I might have found a window into that aspect of the pepperoni roll story.
Really? So this ubiquitous food that's beloved across Appalachia, you found the missing link.
Well, it comes back to the school lunchrooms in Kanawha County, West Virginia, where some people say they got their pepperoni roll education.
Tell me more.
Let's roll the tape.
This is warm water and yeast.
It's 7:30 in the morning here in the kitchen at Horace Mann Middle School in Charleston, West Virginia. Breakfast just wrapped up, but lunch is already heavy on everyone's minds. There's a lot of cooking to do between then and now. Food Services Coordinator Lori Lanier is showing me how to make Kanawha County Schools' famous pepperoni rolls. It starts, as all pepperoni rolls do, with the dough, but not just any dough. That's one secret of the Kanawha Schools pepperoni roll. They're made using the same recipe as those beloved soft and sweet hot rolls that accompany every school Thanksgiving dinner and Salisbury steak.
I don't care how many times you make them. Sometimes you may have a pinch more flour or a pinch less flour. You just have to watch the consistency because it's all one how the flour was sifted.
It will take several batches of dough to make enough rolls for the whole school. And each batch has to raise about a half an hour before the process can continue.
Don't y'all pour it out in separate things so it can raise?
Yes, is that what you want me to do?
Yes, please.
Yes.
After the dough is raised, you still got to fill giant sheet pans with rolls that are individually stuffed and shaped, bake them for about 15 minutes, and brush them with melted butter. Cooks will tell you this is one of the most time-consuming lunches to prepare. A lot of schools shift pepperoni roll day to the end of the week so they can work on the rolls a few days in advance. Horace Mann made half of their rolls the day before I visited, storing them in the walk-in cooler until it was time to pop them in the oven. But there's a good reason they go to all this trouble. These pepperoni rolls are beloved in a way no other school lunch is. My friend and former coworker Whitney Humphrey is 34 and graduated from Riverside High School in 2007.
On pepperoni roll days, the teachers would let you out 5 or 10 minutes early so that you could get to the cafeteria because there was always such a long line. Because even kids who typically didn't eat school lunch would eat lunch on pepperoni roll day.
It was the same thing at Capitol High School, where Brittany Carwick graduated in 2006.
We would always try to talk our teachers into letting us in class at the door so we could run all the way across the courtyard and be first in line for the pepperoni rolls because they're so good.
And Brittany couldn't even really eat pepperoni rolls.
I actually am allergic to pepperoni, but I still love the pepperoni rolls. And so I would unroll them, take the line of pepperoni out, hand it to all my friends, roll it back up and eat it because it had the cheese in it still and it was just delicious cheesy bread at that point.
Tom Bragg also worked with me at the late, great Charleston Daily Mail. He's a Nitro High School grad, and he loved pepperoni rolls so much that it kind of turned him into a scam artist.
20 years ago when I was in school, you were assigned a lunch number. It wasn't like a scan card or a barcode. They told you, here's your 3-digit or 4-digit number, whatever it is, don't forget it. But what we realized is that they were assigned alphabetically in numerical order. And I started thinking one day, on pepperoni roll day, I was like, my best friend who we weren't related, but happened to have the same last name. But my best friend always brought his lunch or would skip school and go get lunch somewhere else. And I was like, man, he's not taking advantage of pepperoni roll day here. And his number is one before mine. So I'm just going to go back through line and get a second pepperoni roll day. And my scheme worked great. Until it wasn't some random kid, it was my best friend. We were at his house and the lunch bill came. And his mom's like, dude, I thought you didn't eat lunch at school. She goes, yeah, I don't eat lunch at school. And I started giggling. We were close enough that it was a funny thing. She was like, oh, Tommy, you owe me $10 for the pepperoni rolls you ate last month. And we paid her. It was all good.
Now, this probably comes as no surprise, right? Pepperoni rolls at this point are an iconic West Virginia food. Invented in the north central part of the state by Italian immigrants who wanted a portable lunch to take into the coal mines. We all know the story. But I would challenge any West Virginian who doesn't live within an hour's drive of Clarksburg. Cast your mind back about 20 or 30 years. Just how prevalent were pepperoni rolls in your day-to-day life back then? I mean, I went to school in Boone County, one county away from Kanawha County, and we never had pepperoni rolls on the school menu. And I've polled folks around my age who grew up in other neighboring counties, Putnam, Lincoln, Jackson, Logan, Clay, Nicholas. None of them had pepperoni rolls on their school lunch trays either. And even my Kanawha County friends, who enjoyed pepperoni rolls at school, didn't have many memories of them outside the lunchroom.
Kanawha County schools is where we learned about pepperoni rolls, essentially. You started seeing them pop up in gas stations after that.
So here's what I decided to figure out. How did pepperoni rolls catch on in Kanawha County schools hours away from where the dish was born and years before it became a statewide phenomenon?
I mean, it became kind of a quest with you.
That's Diane Miller, Kanawha County Schools Director of Child Nutrition. Once she heard about my little research project, she started fishing around herself. There's apparently no paper record of pepperoni rolls' first appearance, no archive of school menus that we could dig into, so she had to go off people's memories. She talked with the Kanawha superintendent and folks from the State Department of Education. She even found some retired school cooks and picked their brains.
They believe that it started between 1992 and 94, but we in Kanawha County can get it back to 97, 98.
In doing so, she discovered a possible origin story.
They ran out of the sub buns. They were making their own pizza breads. And they ran out, and they didn't know what else to do, so they decided that, that they had roll dough for the next day, and so they just put them together as they had pepperoni rolls with their families that were working in the mines.
I asked Diane to connect me with a school cook who might know some of the history, and that's how I ended up on the phone with Nancy Romeo.
I have made more pepperoni rolls than you can shake a stick at.
Nancy retired in 2010 after 20 years with the county, but she says pepperoni rolls were already on the menu when she arrived in 1990. She even called a former coworker to make sure.
We were hired about the same time. Both of us agreed that they were making them before we both were hired.
And that was as much information as she could give me. I had one more lead, though. I called in a favor at the Charleston Gazette-Mail. They don't seem to do it anymore, but there was a time when the paper printed the Kanawha Schools menu for each week. Using that, I thought maybe we could pinpoint the first reference of pepperoni rolls. Well, my connection checked the newspaper archive, and it turns out school menus didn't run in the paper back in the 80s and early 90s. But I did get the name of another retired school cook, Miss Ellen Carter. I found her in the kitchen of the Rand Community Center in eastern Kanawha County. She told me she didn't really have time for an interview, but agreed to let me hold a microphone near her while she made hot rolls. How many rolls are you going to make today?
This is going to be make 120. And I feed about 112 to 115 people.
So they'll all be gone.
Yeah. And I make the rolls, and the pepperoni rolls are made out of the same dough. So.
It turns out Miss Ellen has worked in this same kitchen for most of the last 50 years. She went to work for Rand Elementary in 1970 and stayed until 1999. The school shut down a few years later and became a community center. Miss Ellen then came back to cook for the center's senior nutrition program.
I'm 89, in October I'll be 90.
So if anyone would remember when the pepperoni rolls made their school lunch debut, I figured it'd be Miss Ellen.
I think it was early 80s that they started making pepperoni rolls.
She couldn't give me a more exact time frame, and she had no idea how the rolls came to be on school menus in the first place. But she does know the recipe probably got disseminated in a regular meeting that school cooks used to have.
Yeah, we used to have monthly meetings, and we'd go to a different school, We'd take a covered dish, we'd take the menu to the dish we made, then make us a copy of it. I got gobs of them, so.
One thing she does know, the way she was taught to make pepperoni rolls is not the way cooks make them now. Instead of shaping them individually, she'd get a big lump of dough rolled out flat.
And then you go back and roll it with a rolling pin.
She'd top it with cheese and pepperoni, then roll the whole thing into a log.
And then you cut it and roll your pepperoni rolls. And I don't know if anybody rolls them out like we do. So.
And Miss Ellen still makes a lot of pepperoni rolls. She recently got a call to make 1,000 for a local high school, which was selling them as a fundraiser. She doesn't usually make them for her senior citizens, though. Turns out they're not huge fans.
They like a hot meal. Like today. Reggie, I think, honey, you'd probably take your meatloaf out and put it on. Today they like that. And then we're going to do a baked potato today and a salad, so.
Miss Ellen's senior citizens might not care much for pepperoni rolls, but I know some folks who do.
You guys like pepperoni rolls? Yeah.
They were going fast the day I visited Horace Mann Middle, but I managed to snag a few and tuck them away in my audio bag. So once I got my friends to open up about their fond pepperoni roll memories,
Zach Harold.
I could surprise them with a taste of the past.
Yes, this is exactly what I remember. Yep, exactly. Oh, look at all that pepperoni. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And then the cheese is all gooey and melty, and you can see that, the cheese has a little bit of that pepperoni grease on it. Oh, it's divine.
Oh my gosh, that's a trip down memory lane, Zach. That is so good. Meat to cheese ratio is great. The cheese is melted, but not like lava and molten hot inside. Cooked long enough that the grease from the pepperonis is kind of soaked into the rest of the bread, but hasn't burned it or overtaken it. This is great.
Well, I got something for you.
Okay. Ah! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you.
Don't make yourself sick.
Oh, I remember this. I'm pulling apart the outer layer of bread. And then you hit the spiral, and you can sort of pull that apart with your fingers. You see the pepperoni line, you can take it out. If
you are practiced at this.
I did it for 18 years.
It's coming back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is solid cheese.
It's solid cheese.
Memory is such a funny thing. The Kanawha County Schools pepperoni roll is beloved by generations of school kids at this point. And between me and the folks at the Kanawha board office, we probably talked to dozens of people trying to track down its origins. And the best we could come up with was a hazy timeline that puts us somewhere in the early to late 80s and a plausible but not exactly conclusive story about a school that ran out of pizza subs one day. This entire story unfolded within recent living memory, and those fragments are the best we can do. And yet Whitney and Tom and Brittany have these vivid memories that all came flooding back the instant they bit into one of those pepperoni rolls.
And here I'm 34 years old, and I'm sitting here talking to you for a radio piece about pepperoni rolls because it's had such a presence, I guess, in my life. And in my, I don't have very fond memories of school, but I do have fond memories of the school pepperoni rolls. And, that seems kind of silly, but it's true.
I'm thinking those memories might be the more important ones. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Zach Harold in Charleston, West Virginia.
Herbal remedies like Tulsi and elderberry are in the middle of a renaissance. In Appalachia, these remedies have been used for centuries. In 2021, Folkways reporter Heather Duncan spoke with herbalists who are reviving these traditions in Tennessee.
Crystal Wilson's small garden beds and animal pens sprawl off both sides of a dirt drive on the side of a ridge in Rockford, south of Knoxville. She's been gardening and tending the herbs in her forest floor here for a quarter century. Wilson grew up in Southwest Virginia, learning about wild plants on long walks with her father, who was a factory worker. Her grandparents made extra money gathering plants to sell at an herb house in Marion. It dried the herbs and sold the components to pharmacies.
Appalachia used to be the pharmacy of the United States. You know, we would harvest the plants here, and they go to compounding pharmacies, and that would make medicine. So folks could gather things and take them there to sell them to make extra money. So that's always been part of who we are here. We just forgot it.
Wilson didn't forget. She learned even more about remedies from Appalachian women she taught to read as a literacy coach, her first job after graduating from college. Until the COVID-19 pandemic, Wilson sold home remedies from her farm or a farmer's market, mostly to women. Historically, women turned to herbs for health concerns like menopause and family planning. Today, they also want cures for other problems of our time: sleeplessness, anxiety, and depression. Wilson says elderberry syrup is often the gateway to trying other remedies. Here on Wilson's land, it's literally by the gate.
Well, do you know what that is down there at the road?
No.
That's your first quiz. Come on, that one down there with the white blooms on it.
Oh, yes.
What is it?
That's your elderberry, right?
Well, that's a little bit of many. Yes, that's where we're going to start down here.
What are we hearing?
That's guineas.
A flock of flustered guinea fowl follows Wilson as she winds among goat pens. The berries are a few months off, so today she's going to show me how to make a fever tincture by steeping elderberry flowers and honeysuckle in vodka. First, we have to find open blossoms like small lace doilies. After a hunt, she snaps some off and takes them to a metal bowl of water.
We have a clean jar. I try to look for bugs. We're going to wash it off.
She gestures to the huge containers built onto wooden platforms at each corner of the house.
This is rainwater from that barrel.
Wilson values not only tradition, but also what science teaches about conservation, climate change, and healing. As a diabetic, she depends on modern medicine and emphasizes that herbal remedies are not a replacement for it. She's even taught nurses how to avoid interactions between home remedies and prescriptions.
For a tincture, it's a plant and alcohol base. I usually use potato vodka because a lot of folk got wheat allergies. So now we're going to take our potato vodka and cover this up.
When someone buys a tincture, Wilson personalizes the dosing based on their age, weight, and medical history. She's aware of modern challenges.
We've got a lot of opioid addiction, so, you don't want to give somebody struggling with that and alcohol. So I'll use glycerin, or I'll use even apple cider vinegar for someone like that. I will put this in a windowsill, and I will shake it or walk by it every day. And in about 6 to 8 weeks, I'll strain it and put it in amber-colored little dropper bottles. So everything is slow about this, from the plants to the medicine. Nothing's fast. There's wisdom in that.
Demand for that wisdom has come full circle. Wilson says suburban enthusiasm for traditional remedies is actually driving more Appalachians back to them.
It's so wonderful to see people, I know that, to have that light bulb come on again.
Jill Richards reflects the newer trend of college-educated suburban women making herbal remedies. She's a mother of 6 living on the outskirts of Knoxville.
I think definitely through the years there's been more of an uptick in just regular suburban moms wanting to do things naturally.
Richards turned to making home remedies 25 years ago when her first baby was born, learning recipes from books, her chiropractor, and other moms. They'd make a social event of concocting salve and diaper rash cream while their toddlers played. As her kids aged, Richards came to rely on other remedies.
I have fire cider, and I drink it every day during the winter, and I think it gets rid of anything.
On her counter is a big glass container with a spigot. It holds a light amber liquid, thick with white fragments and flower-shaped pepper slices.
So you take horseradish root, onions and garlic, habanero peppers, some herbs and spices and things like that, and then put them down in apple cider vinegar and let it ferment for like 4 weeks. And then you just drink it. So this is it. I keep my little shot glasses over here. And you just pour it and drink. Yeah. And it is very hot. But I am telling you, I don't think anything bad could live near you if you drink that.
Richard sells elderberry syrup, which has gained mainstream popularity for warding off flu and colds. Some medical research seems to show it can strengthen immune response and shorten illness. She puts the word out to friends on Facebook when she cooks a batch from dried berries ordered online. Richard says herbal remedies are part of a holistic approach to health.
It's interesting to me that we call them alternative because this was what people used to heal for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, this was the original medicine, plants and berries and oils and extracts.
Modern women like Richards can now learn the skills in formal classes. Ladies from a local Red Hat Society are perched on stools around a bar in a greenhouse, clinking ceramic teacups. They've just had a workshop on herbal tea at Aaron's Meadow Herb Farm in the rolling fields of Clinton. The class was taught by farm owner Kathy Burke Mahalzo, whose customers are mostly from Knoxville. She says interest in herbal remedies reflects the broader trend of wanting to know where our food and medicine come from. That went into overdrive during the coronavirus pandemic. Classes stopped, but some online buyers were hoarding immune boosters like dried elderberry and echinacea. Mahalzo quit selling more than a bag at a time. But she says the pandemic brought more people to value gardening and self-sufficiency.
I think it did make people think, especially when, stores were closed and restaurants were closed. It's like, oh my gosh, if I did have, let's say, an injury or an illness, what would I do if I couldn't get to the store for these store-bought medications? I want to know what I could grow and use right out of my backyard. If I had a stomach ache, my child couldn't sleep, we have a small burn. I think people realized that they were dependent on store-bought things, and maybe they didn't have to be.
For Inside Appalachia, I'm Heather Duncan.
If you listen to the popular podcast Death, Sex, and Money, you know Anna Sale. Back in 2005, Anna was a reporter for West Virginia Public Broadcasting. She got curious about an old bus that sits on a rock at the confluence of the New and Gauley rivers, just past the town of Gauley Bridge. So Anna traveled by boat with producer Russ Barber to meet the man behind the mystery.
A bus in the middle of a river might be controversial in some communities, but Randy Keiss says it's a sacred spot in Gauley Bridge.
There's people all over this country stops there, and takes pictures of it. Everybody's wondering how in the world you got it out here, how do you get the thing up on that rock, It's a landmark, It's a landmark.
Rumors swirl in Fayette County about just how the bus landed there. Some say a band of college kids pulled it up on the rocks in the 1960s. Others claim the bus was washed out to the middle of the river during a flood.
Sit back down here side of it. There you go.
The truth is that it was the work of one man, Bruiser Cole, who was in search of the perfect fishing camp. And as fabled as his camp has become, Cole's given it a simple name.
Bus on a rock.
Cole has lived all of his 81 years in Gauley Bridge. His home is in a nearby hollow along Scrabble Creek. But it's his fishing camp that has been his labor of love for 51 years. He claimed the island for himself in 1954 by hoisting a bus up onto a rock outcropping in the middle of the New River. Cole bought the bus and had it barged 9 miles downriver. Then he pulled it up onto the rocks. To hear him tell it, it was an easy process.
I rode it down the river 9 miles. And when I come over here, I had up over here at the boat, and he caught it over there and picked it up for me, tied it. Then I took a little barge up there, it sat over for a month or two. And I went up there above the port, that old flat rock, and that's where I loaded this old bus up. I bought this bus off of Otis Morton up Oak Hill. This is an old Greyhound bus.
And it also made perfect sense.
Well, I thought I'd make a camp out of it. That's what I got for me.
And then to make a camp, how did you decide to make it with a bus?
Well, it's quick and easy after you get over here. It's already built.
He took the wheels off the bus, rested it on the rocks, and built a foundation around it. He added the front porch using wood from an old C&O depot years later. The reason he likes his camp is simple.
Get away from people.
Why do you want to get away from people?
You know how people are.
The rivers surrounding Gauley Bridge provide the perfect buffer for seclusion.
If you ain't got a boat, you can't get across the river unless you swim.
He points out that there are no roads except the railroad across the river from town. Everything used to build the fishing camps on his side of the river was boated across. his boat is an oak wood John boat that he made with his own hands.
I just learned to make them just from all everybody around, worked on stuff. A bunch of them made John boats, just didn't make them like these. You have to fit everything on these when you make them. They're good boats.
He and his half-brother Tom build them, a skill passed on by their father. Instead of John boats, some in Gauley Bridge call them coal boats.
Oh, it takes you 3 or 4 days to paint it and build it and everything.
So you've made boats for yourself, and then sometimes you've sold them?
No, I never did sell them. I may help people make some.
To make a living, he did a variety of things. Mined coal, hauled coal, and served as deputy sheriff in Fayette County. He even drove a school bus. Randy Keiss rode on Cole's bus as a boy.
I'd go to get on the first day of school, He'd say, guys, I got a assigned seat for you right here behind me. I know him pretty well. And I'd sit there all year. I did it 4 years over there on that hill, and I was right behind him. He said, I want to see your smiling face. The old bruiser, he's something else.
Cole spent all of his life swimming, fishing, or sitting on the porch watching the river float by. But as with most things, he doesn't wax poetic about the river.
All rivers are just important to communities. See, it's Gauley here, and New River forms Kanawha here.
But the history of Gauley Bridge is all about the river. Even the name of the town suggests this, linking the name of the river with a human invention. Cole says this goes back to the area's Native American past.
Yeah, they say all the time the old Indians called New River the River of Death. One thing about the river, you got to respect it.
Back when our people came to this part of the world, the rivers were the interstate highways.
When the NPR senior correspondent, Noah Adams, followed the New River north for his book, Far Appalachia, it elicited memories of the region's pioneer past.
I tried to think of what it would have been like for my forebears to come there, and how much more courageous they were, actually, than any of us could be now. It's just an entirely different existence. Just to go down that river for the first time, going west and not knowing what you would come up against, opportunities and the dangers, it's a pretty intimidating thing.
Like Adam's family, Cole's family came to the mountains looking for a place to call their own.
Let's face it, these are places where our people wanted to come to. The Scots-Irish, my folks, came to Philadelphia, and they didn't even stop for lunch. They got off the boat and they said, let's find the mountains, and they wanted to be away from those cities.
Oh, this was all Virginia when my people come in here.
They watched as the Civil War came to Gauley Bridge and saw the strategic importance of the river. In 1861, the town's namesake was burned and destroyed as Confederates retreated. Randy Keiss knows the story well as a native.
Yeah, it used to be a covered bridge over here. They used to, I don't know if it was the Union or what, used to shoot off this side here and blow it out, About every time they would build it back, they'd blow it out. Gauley Bridge is full of history, really. And people fired cannonballs, there's cannonballs all in that river there.
Now, Cole's camp has become a part of Gauley Bridge's history.
1954 when he put it up here. Figure over 50 years old, 50 years on that rock. It's older than me,
From his perch on the porch, Cole has watched the river mark the passage of time. He's seen the town of Gauley Bridge change.
Well, it's built up some all along, over a period of years. And they just put this highway and everything down through here, the bridge in over here. It's been incorporated for 20-some years too.
And the river's flow has changed under his watch after the Summersville Dam was completed in 1966.
Well, I've got my hand on the gospel plow, and I wouldn't take nothing for my journey now.
And in the 1980s, Craigsville native Bernard Coffindaffer approached Cole about putting a set of his famous 3 crosses on a nearby rock.
Oh, he come and asked me about it, and I told him it didn't belong to me.
Cole helped Coffindaffer pull up a 550-pound steel base for each cross.
I think that this that you see here will last 100 years.
And the camp itself is made from the relics of history.
This is all we used to.
And you figured out how to do it all yourself?
Well, I managed.
The seats on the front porch are an old booth from a Kentucky Fried Chicken. A shed from an old Methodist churchyard sits beside the island's outhouse. A satellite dish shields a wood-burning heater from the wind. And when something comes floating down the river, Cole will grab it if it's useful.
Pull it up on the bank and tear it up and use it. That's better than going on down the river. It is usable. That's what's wrong with the stuff now. People throws everything away.
That's not to say the camp doesn't have amenities. Cole strung an electrical line to the bus himself in 1957, which powers the camp's electric oven and 2 refrigerators. There's also running water that's pumped right out of the river.
Yeah, I don't throw nothing in the river. Not even cigarette butt. That's what you're drinking. Everything goes in the river. Always on mines and timber stuff, everything goes in the drinking water. That's what you're drinking. Drinking your own filth already.
But some high-ranking officials once claimed that Cole's camp itself was filth. In the mid-1970s, A. James Manchin was on a statewide mission to clean up West Virginia through the REAP program.
REAP comes to Kanawha Falls to rebuke, to rebel, because we are repulsed with these rustic relics of repugnancy.
Manchin set his sights on getting Cole's bus out of the middle of the river. But Cole had another idea.
James all right. I know he did good. But he didn't cause no problem. Just thought he was.
Did he want you to take the bus off the rock?
No, he didn't say a whole lot about it. Charlie Ken was the mayor over here at the time, and Charlie talked to him. My wife, she called Arch more there. I never heard no more about it.
Whoa! Danny Kincaid, a friend of Cole's, thinks there's more to the story.
Your bruiser could tell you a whole lot more about it than I could. He knows a lot, but he won't tell you everything.
In fact, the town legend goes that when Manchin was making noise about the camp, Cole reminded him that he didn't get the nickname Bruiser by going to Sunday school.
Rough when he wants to be, but he'll tell you the truth. He's a good person. I like him. Think the world of him.
Cole may be mellowing with age. He stays busy and has plans for a list of improvements to the camp. But he knows he won't be around to care for it forever. He secured a deed for the Rock Island in 2004 and says he has it willed to someone. Kincaid says whoever gets the camp after Cole is gone will be the luckiest person on the river.
It's just the best camp here on the river. By far the best. Good location, good fishing around it. You can see everything.
Like the pioneers before him, Cole struck out to make a home where no one had before. He did it all by the sweat of his own brow and is now reaping the benefits. How much time do you think you spent working on this place?
Lot.
Has it been worth it?
Oh, I guess.
There's no place like it in the world.
You got that right.
For Outlook, I'm Anna Sale in Gauley Bridge.
That story originally aired in 2005 on a West Virginia Public Broadcasting TV show called Outlook. Bruiser Cole passed away in 2012, but his bus on a rock is still standing. At Inside Appalachia, we love roadside attractions. Got a particular favorite in the region? Drop us a line at insideappalachia@wvpublic.org. We might feature it in a future episode. Till next time, thanks for joining us as we journey throughout Appalachia. Our theme music is by Matt Jackford. Other music this week was provided by Sierra Farrell, Paul McCartney, Joe Dobbs and the 1937 Flood, Blue Dot Sessions, Yonder Mountain String Band, and Hot Rise. Bill Lynch is our producer. Xander Alloy is our associate producer. Our executive producer is Eric Douglas. Kelly Libby is our editor. Our audio mixer is Patrick Stevens. We had help this week from Folkways editor Chris Julin. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter @InAppalachia. You can also send us an email to insideappalachia@wvpublic.org. Visit wvpublic.org/InsideAppalachia to subscribe or stream all of our stories. Or look for Inside Appalachia on your favorite podcast app. Inside Appalachia is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for Inside Appalachia is provided by Concord University, focusing on students' futures. Classes available at concord.edu/apply.
I didn't have a choice, I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. You should have heard me talking on the telephone. All morning long, nothing good to say. You came and tried to help me, but I pushed you away. Said I'm too hot to handle, better leave me alone.